Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them.
Welcome and thank you for joining Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV. I'm Yvette Walker, live blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, serving a population of over 25 million. Get us crystal clear and on demand by downloading the free live streaming app on Google Play and the Apple App Store. As always, a huge shout out to the team. Mitch, Bill, and Sean, I love you guys, and to our special advisory committee that can be found at www.scbrtalk.com/advisory committee. Learn about these incredible leaders doing the work in our region today. All right, everybody, today I have the distinct privilege to introduce Leslie Sherwood James. She is the Vice President of the Museum Associates for the Ontario Museum of History and Art. She is a lifelong resident of the Inland Empire, is currently the Vice President, as mentioned, and a Pitzer College graduate with a degree in American Studies. James is an enthusiastic volunteer at both the museum and at San Antonio Regional Hospital. Her focus is on enhancing the community and acting as a liaison between organizations and the people they serve. Thank you so much for being with us today, Leslie.
Hey, Yvette, it's really good to see you again. Yvette and I met when she interviewed me at the hospital in my volunteering job. So I'm always happy to see people come into the Cancer Boutique at the 1100 building at San Antonio Regional Hospital or come visit me at the museum.
I love it. Yes, absolutely. And you are a brilliant representation of a member of the community that does the work, is invested, and just is extremely supportive. So when I met you at the Cancer Center gift shop at the 1100 building, the Shui Cancer Center building, where City of Hope is located as well, you know, I learned so much about all of the unique offerings that are very specific to cancer patients. And so for that, I thank you very much, Leslie.
Oh, I and the entire hospital appreciate your focus on that shop.
Absolutely. And so today we're going to focus on your role as the Vice President of the Museum Associates for the Ontario Museum of History and Art, which is absolutely phenomenal. I'm so excited. I love the history of our region. So Leslie, please talk about what inspired you to pursue a role within the Museum Associates for the Ontario Museum History of Art as the Vice President.
Well, the vice presidency was a while coming, but as you said, I grew up in this area. I lived my whole life here. There are artifacts in the museum that relate to my family, both extended and local. And I was an American Studies grad, which is basically an American history major. And I love the history. I love history in general. I love the history of our area. And I love being a native and making new people to the area understand what a great history we have here and how much of a story we have to tell.
I love it.
Being with the Museum Associates, I didn't want a job in the museum. I'm lucky enough to be able to volunteer. So this seemed the perfect way to do it.
That is wonderful. So, Leslie, talk a little bit about the Museum Associates' mission and their work alongside the Ontario Museum of History and Art.
Right. Well, the Museum Associates, the museum itself is a city department. It's a City of Ontario department. And so the Museum Associates are a concurrent organization, entirely volunteer, and we're a separate 501c3. So we can pursue grant proposals and things like that maybe the museum as a city entity can't. Our mission, and I will read it because I didn't want to get it wrong, is the Museum Associates is a 501c3 nonprofit support group for the Ontario Museum of History and Art. We provide support financially through our fundraising and membership efforts, educationally through our support of the docent program, and throughout the community with our representation at events and activities. So we do a lot of community outreach. That's a big part of what we do. If you go to the reindeer run in Ontario or, the movies on Euclid or concerts on Euclid in the summer, you're going to see the Museum Associates there with a booth inviting you to play ring toss or something and have some fun. That's how we get the kids so that we can talk to the parents about the museum and tell them about what we have to offer a family who can come into our museum. We also steward the museum's membership program. So that's a great way to support the museum is by becoming a member. There's information on the museum website, or you can stop by the museum and pick up a membership brochure. And we also run the museum store. That's what I'm particularly involved with right now, revamping the museum store, because I don't know about you, but when I go to a museum, the first thing I want to do before I even see the exhibits is go to the store. And so I really wanted our museum to have that kind of destination store. So we're working on that too.
I love it. And so your experience working at a gift shop at the hospital, I'm sure is going to be super helpful.
Oh yeah, and I have, most of my early work experience was retail, so I got to parlay that somehow. So,
Absolutely. So as we know, this entire region was once part of the San Manuel Band of Missions land from here all the way down to the ocean. But today we are going to talk about the origins of Ontario and the Chaffee brothers' influence on the development of Ontario, right? Because that's where Ontario came from as the model colony, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Please talk about that.
Well, George Chaffee came to this area in 1881, I believe it was, and looked around and said, this would be great for farming and living if only we had water. If only there's a way to harness water. So he, being an engineer, had lots of ideas about how that was possible. He got his brother to come out here and meet him, and in 1882, they purchased something like 6,200 acres of land that eventually became the core part of Ontario. The name of Ontario came because the Chaffee brothers were from Ontario, Canada, and they wanted to honor their homeland. But like so many people after them, they wanted to come down where the weather was a little more pleasant during the winter than Ontario, Canada. But that's how we got our name. The idea of the model colony was something that George, again, his engineering mind is all over everything he did. And he had three principles of what he thought would make this an ideal place to live. The first and most important thing was there had to be the development of water. We had to be able to harness water. And the model colony should be beautiful, thus Euclid Avenue and the gorgeous homes in the older parts of Ontario. And also the foundation of an agricultural college for agricultural learning, obviously, and general education. And once those things were in place, the city was established in, I don't have the exact date, but the Chaffees got those things in place to start their model colony.
I love it because, everywhere you look in the history throughout the community that talks about the Chaffee brothers, it really was established to be a model, right? And I believe this model was also attempted to be duplicated in Mildura, which
That's
is
true.
a sister city to Ontario, but it's located in Australia. Unfortunately, the efforts were not the same there as they were here.
Yeah, apparently I've not been to Mildura, so I can't speak for sure, but I know the idea was that the Chaffees sort of made their mark here and then they went to Australia with grand hopes, but you can't go see a beautiful Euclid Avenue like ours or anything in Mildura, I guess. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, so let's talk about Euclid Avenue, right? Because back in the day, Euclid Avenue had the carts on it that were moving the people from the south end of Ontario to the north end of Ontario, which is actually now Upland, right? Because at one point Upland seceded from Ontario.
Yeah, it was actually called North Ontario, and then they decided to secede. Well, obviously, like we talked about, Euclid's a beautiful street, and I've never brought anyone here from out of town or out of the country who doesn't say, my God, this is gorgeous. It sweeps from Holt Boulevard, was where the beauty started, if you will, all the way up to the mountains. And the naming of Euclid is because George Chaffee, again, being an engineer, was a huge fan of geometry, and Euclid, being the father of geometry, was a great hero of his. So that's how Euclid Avenue came to be. came to be named. The transport up the hill was an interesting thing. Originally, there was what we called a gravity mule car. Looks like a trolley or a train car, and a mule would pull it up the hill, up to 24th Street, and then there was a platform on the back. The mule would climb on the platform and ride back downhill. And that was a famous thing. And you can go to the corner of Euclid and B Street, and in the median, there is one of the mule cars there. In a case, you can look at it and see what it was like. And I believe there's some information there too. Anecdotally, I have always heard the story. I don't know if it's true, but I always heard that those mules, once they were replaced by an electric streetcar 6 or 7 years later, that the mules were taken to farms and they would refuse to walk both directions on the field. Supposedly, they would pull the cart one way and then they would wait because they thought they got to ride back the other way. Now, I don't know if that's really true, but it makes a good story. So,
I mean, creatures of habit, right?
Exactly.
So Leslie,
and stubborn too, from what they tell me.
Yes. So tell us about the other amazing thing on Euclid, right? So we have the Madonna of the Trail, which we know was an installation brought there by the Daughters of the American Revolution. It's one of 12 throughout the country. Please tell us about why that spot was selected for that Madonna of the Trail.
Well, that spot, all of the Madonnas from Maryland to California were placed along the Old Trails Road, which was a road that followed one of the migratory trails to come here. That particular spot at Euclid Avenue was the confluence of 4 different trails, the Anza Trail, the California Trail, and a couple of others. They all passed through that exact spot. So that's why they chose there. Plus, here's beautiful Euclid Avenue. Here are the mountains behind. Here's the trees. It was a perfect spot. And some of those Madonnas of the Trail apparently are no big deal in their cities. But as you may know, the city of Upland has the Madonna on their city seal. She's a huge emblem of Upland. So yeah, we always called her the lady with the big feet, but that's what a little kid who grows up in Upland calls the statue. You're not going to have as much respect for it as maybe you should.
Right. Well, I love that she's overlooking Route 66, right? Which spans all the way from the Pacific Ocean to Chicago. Just remarkable. And when you talk about the beauty of Euclid, it takes me back to a quote that I read from Eleanor Roosevelt that called Euclid the most beautiful thoroughfare in America. And, recently I had the pleasure of being at the Pomona College at Claremont at the Bridges Auditorium, where I saw a poster of her announcing her visit to the college with the date. And then I put everything together. I said, wow, this is how she knew. She was visiting the colleges, got to see Euclid Avenue, and made the comment that we all, I think about Euclid Avenue, which is absolutely beautiful.
Even the people in Claremont who have a lot of their own beauty brought her over here to see our beautiful avenue. So that's kind of cool.
Absolutely. So, other amazing things about Ontario, right? Let's talk about Chaffey High School and some historical elements many would be surprised to learn about.
Sure. Well, as we talked about, having a college there was part of the ideal of the model colony. So originally, the location that we now know as Chaffey High School was Chaffey Agricultural College, and the early buildings and layout were designed in conjunction with USC, and so it effectively functioned as USC's College of Agriculture for a few years, although they didn't remain involved for terribly long. Most of the buildings that we know now, well, first I should say it was a college alone until 1901. The high school was added in 1901. It was named Chaffey High School, and the college was named Chaffey College in 1911. Most of the buildings that were there were severely damaged by the 1933 Long Beach earthquake. So most of the buildings that we see now are of the mid-30s to early 40s vintage, and many of them were built by the WPA, or Works Progress Administration, after the Great Depression. But the buildings there, anybody who's inspired to take a trip up Euclid Avenue should have a look at Chaffee High School, because the buildings are absolutely beautiful in I believe it's Spanish Revival style, but please don't quote me on that because I'm no expert. The Gardner Spring Auditorium is absolutely gorgeous if you can take in a concert there. There are often things available to the public. Inside the lobby of the Gardner Spring Auditorium is a beautiful sculpture of a tiger, because Chaffee is the Tigers. And that sculpture was done by renowned local artist Betty Davenport Ford. So it's worth a look. It's a little bit of public art that is always fun to go see. And Chaffee just has put in their third swimming pool. Not that they have three at one time, but their first pool was an indoor pool. Then they had another pool. They've just dedicated a brand new swimming pool. And they've also been in lots of TV shows and movies and that kind of thing, because it's so beautiful and so picturesque.
Absolutely. And I just absolutely love it. So I had the pleasure of joining various productions, actually specifically by the Chaffee High School theater program, which anybody that's listening, please, I encourage you, if you love Broadway, you're going to love this, because walking into these productions, you would never imagine that they were high school productions. You can go to Pantages Theater or Amundsen Theater, and you will see the same level of production, lighting, and the talent is absolutely off the charts. I get chills just thinking about it, because it's surreal, right?
Absolutely. I did not go to Chaffee High. I actually went to Montclair High School, a rival within the same district, but we were always envious of what they were able to do at Chaffee Drama, for sure.
Yeah, just amazing. But so let's get back to the Chaffee brothers and talk about the technology and efforts that went into water delivery infrastructure developed for the model colony of Ontario.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's a fairly obvious thing, and we certainly see it every year when rain and snow fall in the mountains, it runs downhill, and we're very clearly downhill from the mountains. And so George Chaffee thought there have got to be ways to get that water and harness it before it just meanders its way down the hill and goes wherever it goes. So he actually developed a whole system of concrete pipes, underground and above ground concrete pipes, mostly underground, I guess, to get the water at the head of the San Antonio Canyon, or the foot of the San Antonio Canyon, and bring that water down. And I believe that some of those pipes may still be in use today, but I'm not completely sure. And then later on I don't know if I know the exact time, but the San Antonio Water Company, a tenet that we didn't talk about with the model colony was that in order to build a house or a building, that homeowner or business owner needed to also have water rights. So they would always have the rights. They would always have the water to function in that space. And part of the way they did that was they established a mutual water company, the San Antonio Water Company, which I incidentally worked for about 20 years back when I was back in a previous lifetime. And the water company made a tunnel at the head of the canyon to tap the underground flow. So the pipes weren't as necessary, but in working with the Chaffee brothers and in developing this mutual supportive situation where if I bought a house, I got a share of water stock, so I would always have water for my house. And that's one of the things that made it so desirable, that people didn't have to dig their own wells or scramble around to figure out how they were going to get water. It made the agriculture that we have here not only possible, but not easy. Farming's never easy, but it paved the way for it. It made perfect sense to have agriculture here because the water was supplied.
I love it. So please talk about the impact, right? Having a stable water delivery system made Ontario in our region a prime location for agriculture, and speak to the evolution of the community as a result of that as well, please.
Yeah, it obviously brought people here to begin with, the promise of water. Another anecdotal story that I'm not 100% sure is true is that the booster company that sort of took over the PR of bringing people from back east to Ontario would, when a train would come in on the Santa Fe tracks, which are right below the museum that you're looking at behind me there, this fountain that you can see behind me, the Frankish fountain, we now call it, was turned on so that there was abundant water flying in the air and flowing, and it looked so plentiful. And every time the train stopped, people on the train would look and say, oh, they've got plenty of water in Ontario. Maybe I should settle there. And the minute the train left town, they'd turn the fountain off. Now, as I say, that may or may not be true, but I love that story. But it certainly brought people here both to farm. It was primarily citrus growing, but there were also walnuts and peaches and lemons, mostly oranges, some lemons, and vineyards. That sort of more out towards Rancho Cucamonga was the vineyard area, but it was an absolutely thriving agricultural area. It also brought people, and the more people come, the more it grows, and the more expensive land gets, and the harder it is to afford to farm that land when you could sell it to a developer to build buildings. So I think slowly but surely, Ontario's strength has forced out one of its heritage pieces, which is the agriculture. It's just not possible on any large scale for small farming to take place here now. But there are beautiful neighborhoods and great places to live, and we still always have water. So
I love it. And, I love the anecdote and just the vision that you paint of, coming up on a train to visit this new, beautiful model colony and seeing this beautiful sprouting spring of water out of the fountain. Yeah, exactly. I can see that being very attractive and, a motivation to say, hey, maybe this is a place I would like to settle in and explore and see what's going on here.
Yeah, exactly.
And so how long did the Chaffee brothers actually stay in Ontario after they completed their grand project?
I'm honestly not 100% sure of the timing, but it was only a few years. For as revered as they are here, and you'll see statues in front of Ontario City Hall and Upland City Hall, both commemorating George Chaffee, they were only here for a short time, but their impact, continues to be felt today. And I tell everybody, I live right across the street from Chaffee High School. Everyone knows where that is. So,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We're coming up on a break now, Leslie. So everybody listening, Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talk, Southern California Business Report here today with Leslie Sherwood James, Vice President of the Museum Associates for the Ontario Museum of History and Art, with an update on the journey to becoming the premier arts and cultural center for the Inland Empire by engaging diverse audiences, presenting dynamic experiences, and preserving the region's legacy. When we return.
I'm Dana Rademacher with MGR Property Management.
A lot of people wonder about the value that property management has for their property. Property management can include all property types, including residential, commercial, and HOA. It is valuable because property managers are experienced in what can happen at your property. We're aware of liabilities. We're able to do predictive and preventative maintenance. We know what is coming up with the changes in the weather, the seasons, how old certain aspects or different capital projects at your property are. We're able to best negotiate contract pricing, legalities with your tenants, and anything else that you may need to ensure that you're getting the full value of your property. If you're interested in speaking with the representative at MGR Property Management regarding your property management needs, you can visit our website at mgrrealestate.com, or you can call our number at area code 909-581-6600 to be connected with the representative.
Hi, Ray Lance from the Diamond Center in the Claremont Village here. One of the coolest parts of a third-generation family business is getting to know the families we serve through generations. Once you experience our friendly service, our fair and transparent pricing, and our beautiful jewelry that we make to last a lifetime, you'll stick with us too. Come visit us in the Claremont Village or at Lantz, L-A-N-T-Z, diamondcenter.com and see what makes us different.
Cal State San Bernardino is home to the only school of entrepreneurship in California. With globally ranked degree programs, you can start your journey today to become a successful entrepreneur. Learn more and connect at entre.csusb.edu.
Ontario International Airport is onto a better way to fly with over 65 daily nonstop flights to more than 20 major destinations and the easiest airport experience in Southern California. Visit flyonto.com/Ontario to learn more about Ontario International Airport today.
Hi, I'm San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes. If you're looking to start an exciting career in law enforcement and make a difference in your community, we are hiring dispatchers, nurses, deputies, laterals, and many more. For a complete list of our jobs and more information, visit sheriffsjobs.com.
The University of La Verne is rated first in California for alumni satisfaction. Learn more about accelerated programs offered online and on campus in La Verne, Irvine, Ontario, Burbank, or College of the Canyons. Visit go.laverne.edu. The University of La Verne. go.laverne.edu.
Welcome back, everyone. Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talk Southern California Business Report here today with Leslie Sherwood James, Vice President of the Museum Associates for the Ontario Museum of History and Art, with an update on the journey to becoming the premier arts and cultural center for the Inland Empire by engaging diverse audiences, presenting dynamic experiences, and preserving the region's legacy. Thank you again for being with us here today, Leslie.
It is my pleasure, Yvette.
Beautiful. So prior to the break, you gave us kind of an overview of how Ontario came to be as the model colony, how agriculture was a big part of that, and especially how the watery delivery system implemented by the Chaffee brothers contributed to all of that, how that made it everything we see today possible. Mm-hmm. And with that said, I want to focus on the fabric of the community, right? And what people can expect when interacting with members of the community. It's something that I absolutely admire about the region. And I'll say it right now. I've only been here 22 years now, and I'm still new. I'm still new to the area, right? So please tell us why that's the case, Leslie.
Well, it's interesting because, as you and I have talked about, San Bernardino County is the largest county in the country in terms of square miles. And you'd think that it'd be a huge diaspora of people that didn't really know each other because we don't have the largest population. But I feel that our Inland Empire area, and certainly Ontario, I've lived here now for 25 years after moving down from Upland in my 30s. I feel there's such a strong sense of community here. And I like to think that we're welcoming to new people who come in. I was thinking about how it's not that people never leave or that people have small lives here, because I don't think that's the case. But I was thinking about some of the businesses in Ontario. I've always joked that half the people I know had their first job either at Vince's Spaghetti or at Graber Olive House. If I talk to people my age and older more, those places employed so many people. There are several businesses like that are still active in Ontario that have been around for, I don't know, for instance, Logan's Candies on B Street in Ontario, who make the best candy canes you've ever eaten in your life. You can go down there during Christmas time and watch a demonstration of the candy cane making. And then Jerry Rowley, who owns Logan's, is someone I went to high school with. So there's another connection for me. Graber Olive House, which used to be just a couple of blocks from me on 4th Street, was an olive farming business that sprung up in this residential area. And the Grabers cured their own olives, the most delicious, soft, succulent, tasty olives, and are a family-owned business, are still a family-owned business 125 years or so after their founding, something like that. They can be found online now. The shop isn't currently open, but you can go to graberolives.com and find them. And Vince's Spaghetti is down on Holt. I think they opened in 45 or 46. And nobody who lives here and likes spaghetti hasn't been to Vince's at least once. Yes. And they've got the best neon sign in Ontario, too, which could have been made by my grandfather because he used to run Ontario Neon. But I don't know that. I don't know that he made that.
Wow.
He did do neon. But I think the fact that there are these businesses that are still vital 75 or 100 or 100 plus years on shows how much of a community this is and how people are interested in supporting the community. I mean, I go buy both cinnamon and peppermint candy canes for my niece who moved to Montana, and I send them to her in Montana every year because it wouldn't be Christmas for her without her Logan's candies. But I feel like there are all of these connections. You know, when you go someplace and you talk to somebody and they say, "Are you related to so and so?" Or, "Oh, I went to high school here," or, "Oh, I worked for this person." And I wouldn't say hardly a day goes by, but I'm always running into people either I know or I know their names because I'm sure they were friends of my parents or something like that. And so I like to think that we're this welcoming small town inside this big metropolis that we live in. But we're not a tiny, puny little town. I mean, we've got huge businesses. We've got Ontario Airport. We've got Ontario Airport that started as a Latimer Field in the 20s from some flight enthusiasts and now has become an international airport. UPS and FedEx are out there. We have warehousing like nobody's business, all kinds of important businesses here. We have a lot to offer. We have the Ontario Reign. I'm a hockey fan, so I'll give a plug to the Ontario Reign and the Ontario
Yes, and the Empire Strikers too.
Yes, that's right. The Strikers, team. Of course. I mean, we've got these teams and there's lots to do. And as you noted, it's really been Ontario's ambition in the last few years to establish themselves as an arts community, arts and culture community, because we've got an awful lot to compete with in the Southern California area, and we know that. But we're working towards people recognizing us for that and making us a destination because of the arts.
Absolutely. And I love that you're sharing the history of Ontario because it's so deep, so rich, and so beautiful. And it's not a wonder that people have stayed here for multi-generations, right? Because it's absolutely beautiful. You look to the north, you see the beautiful San Antonio Mountains known as Mount Baldy. You know, you're 30 minutes from the ocean, 30 minutes from the desert, 30 minutes from LA, 30 minutes from the mountains. You're centrally located, especially with all of the freeways that intersect, you know, around and in Ontario, the 210, not too far off, you know, the 15, the 57, not too far off. So from a logistical standpoint and from an economic growth standpoint, it's wonderful to see how much our region, how much Ontario has grown as a result of these, I'll call them model colony philosophies, right? Because it seems like this is a philosophy that's been carried on through leadership throughout the decades, throughout the years, throughout the generations that started with the Chaffee brothers, you know, to make a community that is a model community. And it's that way ongoing in perpetuity. And it's just remarkable to see the adherence to that philosophy today.
Yeah. You'll always see references to the model colony or the new model colony. And I think our mayor and city council and all of the city government always have an eye on remaining true to those ideals, because like you say, it's what makes us special.
Absolutely. So why change, right?
If it ain't broke, right?
If it's not broke. So let's talk about the museum and where it sits today. I love this too, because it's a part of history itself.
Yeah. It is. In fact, you can see it there behind me for the people who are watching the live stream. The museum sits in the former City Hall. It was the second City Hall for Ontario. It was built by the WPA in 1936-37. Became the museum in 1979. And then Museum Associates were founded in 1996, I believe. But yeah, the building was the former City Hall. When you go, it wasn't made to be a museum, let's be honest. And so there are challenges that come with a historic building number 2 in the city of Ontario. And so there are challenges, but the building itself is so beautiful and so interesting. You go in and you can see the city council chambers that were there with the custom built huge oak table and chairs that go together. I'm going to a meeting there tonight, as a matter of fact. You can look at these council chambers. You can look at this building. You can see if you're really nice, somebody can show you where the jail holding cell used to be, and there are safes built.
If you're
into the
nice,
wall.
if you're nice, you get to visit the jail.
If you're nice, you get to visit it, but not stay in it.
Okay.
So it's such an interesting building, and also our landscaping was recently redone to reflect water-wise principles and the traditions of the Tongva Indians, which were the most local Indian tribe in our area. So there's a self-guided walking tour of the grounds where you have the philosophies behind the drought tolerance explained, and explaining the native plants that are there and how they were used by the Tongva. So you don't even have to go into the museum to see that. And it's a nice place for a picnic or something like that. But
I love it. Yes. In fact, I go visit the museum with my daughter. There is this beautiful little cafe right across the street called Mestizas.
Oh, yes.
Coffee and cake, right? Beautiful, local, small business, family-owned business. Love it. My daughter and I will go get our coffee. We'll go get our croissant. It's a jalapeno and ham croissant, just divine with our coffee. Walk across the street and, just enjoy the grounds of the museum. It's so peaceful, so beautiful. You've done an amazing job. So, Leslie,
I've been known to do the same thing with Mestiza, but mine's usually a chocolate croissant. So.
Oh, okay. I'll have to try that one next. Please talk about your collective efforts to bring art to Ontario and the broader Southern California region.
Sure. Well, in Ontario, we've instituted a number of different policies or foci. We've looked a lot at public art, and there is a new public art commission that was just established, and incoming businesses are compelled to support the public art either by adding some or paying a fee. I believe that's how it works. We have several at the museum itself. We have several shows that we have on a yearly or bi-yearly basis that put out a call for artists, both local and wider spread, to bring people here. And there is a fairly new program called Art at ONT, which is art exhibits and displays mostly in Terminal 2 of Ontario Airport. There are plexiglass cases as you walk the hallway to the gates where local artists will be featured. And that's curated by the people who run the Chaffey Community Museum of Art, which is adjacent to our museum and part of the arts district that we're working on establishing. We have a quarterly art walk where everyone joins together. We've tried to make it a destination in terms of not just, hey, come here and see art, but you can walk around, you can eat at Mestiza, you can go to Strum Brewing and have a beer, you can go up the street to Gloria's and have some Mexican food, go to Logan's and get some candy. You can do all these things. We just had our yearly Ontario Festival of the Arts, which is a sort of like Village Venture in Claremont, in that it's lots of artisans and artists have booths. There was music, there were food trucks, all kinds of great things. I stayed inside at the store all day, so I didn't have to be out in the heat. That was fine with me. But we are slowly but surely building this group of events that are going to appeal not just to the people who are within walking distance of the museum or whose kids go on a school trip, but people who would come here and make it a destination, stay in the hotels, eat in the restaurants. There are new restaurants in downtown Ontario all the time too. So it's been a citywide effort for sure.
Absolutely. And, I actually attended one of the more recent events there, which was the Cruisin' Reunion on Route 66 there in downtown Ontario. Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I had never seen a larger collection of amazing, fine, historic, beautiful vehicles. And the number of people that were going through there, I thought, wow. Yeah.
That is really something that brings in people from all over, because the people who are car aficionados apparently will travel a very long way to see those cars. And displayed on Euclid or cruising up and down Euclid, I mean, it couldn't be better as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. And so through that, I actually learned of a new business that's coming up, that's coming online. I'm going to give them a plug because they're a family-owned business. They're right on Euclid, and it's going to be called The Mule on Euclid. So it's going to be like a restaurant slash bar, just lend itself.
Is that the distillery that's going in the old Bank of Italy building?
It may be. It may be. So I'll have to confirm with that. But yes, it's called The Mule on Euclid, and I'm excited to see that. All of these great pop-ups that are actually established by members of the community that, like you, like myself, just love the region, that want to give back, that want to integrate, be a part of that fabric. It's just so inspiring to see, and especially from the ground level, right, as they're developing it, so they can look back 10, 15 years from now and say, oh my gosh, I remember when. Right?
You wouldn't believe how hard we had to work to just get A to happen, and now X, Y, and Z have happened.
Exactly. So let's talk about some of the themes that visitors will encounter at the Museum of History and Art.
Okay, well, right now we have one of our most popular annual shows, our Dia de los Muertos show. We invite artists from the region to make art that celebrates the theme. This year, our theme for Dia de los Muertos is Recuerdos de Sabores, and I will, in my pidgin Spanish, translate that as the memories of food, or food that brings good memories, but it's all about sort of the things you ate at your grandma's table and that kind of thing, asking people to examine that sort of thing. There are all kinds of art, just pieces of art on the wall. There are sculptures. There are several community altars. There are murals. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's colorful. It is well worth a visit. In that gallery, the North Gallery of the museum, is where we typically have limited time shows, our art shows, or if a traveling show comes through, or if our curators put together a show on like the Bracero program, for instance, or something like that, it'll be in that gallery. We do also have permanent exhibits. One is called Gem of the Foothills, and it's a bit of Ontario history. There are, irons from the GE Hot Point plant, which used to be down here in Ontario, and there's a vat from Graber Olive House. There are all kinds of artifacts from local history that tells you about the people who lived here. Pictures of packing house staffs and all kinds of great things there. We've just recently opened our newest permanent exhibit, and we're so proud of it, and it's been a long time coming. It's called Built on Water, and it ties in really well with the discussion we've been having about the Chaffees and the model colony and everything. It is an exhibit that examines the importance of water to human beings and to development, but the importance of water to nature, how ways we interact with water, what we can do to conserve it, all those kinds of things. There are interactive exhibits there. There's a virtual reality program where you can follow the life cycle of a monarch butterfly, and there are all kinds of artifacts and different things that you can do. And we even have an app, which is a big deal for us, which is called Water Keepers. And you can get it on either the Google Play Store or the App Store for Apple. And in it, you take on the role of either a citrus farmer from Canada in the 1880s, I think it specifies he's from Canada, or a current day water engineer, or a water developer of the future. And so you learn what their concerns are and what parts those people play in, putting water in your tap or in your swimming pool or whatever.
I love it. Please, I know in our previous discussion, you gave me an idea of how that is narrated, right? And my understanding is it's narrated from the perspective of different people within the community. Can you please speak a little bit more to that?
Well, to be honest, I was not, I'm going to fumble a little here because it certainly is, it does focus on the different kinds of people that have been instrumental in the founding of this community. Water people, farmers, housewives, children, all of those kinds of things. all those people that are important that don't always get to be important.
So we get to view ourselves as an important part of water conservation, water sustainability, how we all have a very important role to continue the conservation and preservation of our water resources.
Exactly. And it's apolitical, which I think is probably in this day and age an important thing to say, that it's not anybody's climate change politics or anything like that. It is, here's the reality of our region. We live in a desert and things have to happen for there to be water here. And here's what happens and here's what you can do to help. And here's how it affects you. And here's the history. There's a wooden pipe that they found while they were excavating something that used to be a wooden water pipe that the San Antonio Water Company had. That's one of the artifacts that's in that show. All kinds of great things.
A wooden water pipe.
I know.
Wow. Okay.
Weird, huh?
That is amazing. I can imagine maybe the growth that occurred around it as a result of, some of the water coming through it. I mean, that's phenomenal. And I love that you have your current exhibit right now that is Recuerdos de Sabores, which is memories of flavors. Tell us again, how long is that exhibit going to be there? And what can people expect?
Well, it'll be there until Sunday, November 19th. And I would say the best time for people to come see it, really, if you want a party atmosphere, would be the day before that on the 18th, which will be the quarterly art walk. Museum store will be open. There'll be probably activities. Sometimes we have face painting or different crafts, different things like that, music, all kinds of things during the art walk. But people can expect the museum is always free, so they can expect never to have to pay. And the museum is open 12 to 4 on Thursday and Friday and 11 to 5 on Saturday and Sunday. But they can expect a warm welcome. Will be able to nose around in all the nooks and crannies of the museum and have a look around and see an absolutely beautiful and moving show with the Dia exhibit, and then they should have a lot of fun in the water exhibit as well, I think.
Wonderful. So what have you noticed in terms of emerging or popular trends that you have noticed in or around the Ontario Museum of History and Art?
Well, in terms of art, and this is completely anecdotal, just my experience, I would say that a lot of what we see now in terms of what is submitted to us is mixed media. We see a lot of mixed media things, assemblages and collages and things like that. And street art is a big influence, and anime and manga are both big influences. We have an annual zine get together in the summer that's aimed towards teens that talks about kids who are doing their own zines and their own comics. We have emerging artist get-togethers and all kinds of things like that. But the trends are going more outside the box all the time, I'd say. It's not just, we still get absolutely beautiful oil paintings and watercolors and more traditional things, and they're gorgeous. And I have more art than I have walls to hold it because I get so tempted by things. But there's just so much interesting stuff coming in all the time.
That is amazing. Leslie, please share with our audience how the community can connect and best support your efforts and the efforts of the Ontario Museum of History and Art.
Well, the very first thing is come to the museum. That's what we're about. We want you to come to the museum. We want you to experience it for yourself. You can also go to our website, which is ontariomuseum.org. The Museum Associates, you'll also find a pull down on there somewhere. You could volunteer. That's always fun. We're always looking for people to volunteer. You could become a member of the museum, which would be great because all of the money that we raise on the Museum Associates goes to fund the efforts of the museum, specifically the education efforts. The museum is currently outfitting a room to be an education, the Carlson Education Gallery. It's going to be a room where it can be used for school trips and activities, but eventually we're going to have a podcasting studio and all kinds of broadcasting capabilities. That's our dream. That's our dream. It's a ways off. But just come down or go to the website, get on our email mailing list, find out all of the events that are coming up. You can also see that in Ontario Living Magazine, which comes out quarterly to all residents, all homeowners. I'm not sure exactly what the mailing is, but that information is out there. Follow us on social media. The museum has its own Instagram. The museum store has its own Instagram. Just come and see us and realize why we're a worthy institution and why you want us to stick around and find out what you can do to help.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much for being with us here today, Leslie, for your work, for your heart, and for your passion to preserve our region's legacy and history.
It was absolutely my pleasure. I don't have problems. As anybody who's watched me run a meeting will tell you, I don't have a problem talking. One thing I did want to say is I felt like I need to slip in my family motto, which my dad cribbed from one of the buildings at Chaffey High, because he was a graduate of Chaffey High School. On one of the buildings there in the front, it says, "Know thy opportunity." And so now we all in the family will say, "Know thy opportunity," which, should I eat that chocolate croissant? Well, no, thy opportunity. You can use it to justify just about anything. So it's supremely useful.
I love it. And it goes perfect with the testament and the pillars of this program, which are solutions, opportunity, and success. Thank you again,
Perfect.
Leslie. Wonderful. For everybody listening today, don't forget to find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. All right, what's happening? Lewis Family Playhouse at 12505 Cultural Center Drive in Rancho Cucamonga presents The Addams Family, a new musical comedy. The award-winning Inland Valley Repertory Theater brings this weird and wonderful family to a devilishly delightful life. Check it out. Call the box office at 909-477-2752. For more information, tickets start at $40. The 44th Annual Inland Empire Estate Planning Seminar taking place Wednesday, November 1st from 1 to 6 p.m. at the Riverside Convention Center. Visit iestateplanningseminar.org or call 909-734-1554 for more information. CASA, court-appointed special advocates of San Bernardino County for children in the foster care system, will be conducting a casino night fundraiser with honorary speaker Jason Anderson, District Attorney of San Bernardino County, on Thursday, November 2nd at Upland Hills Country Club, located at 1231 East 16th Street in Upland. Tickets are going to be $125. Call 909-402-3318 or email Diane at casaofsb.org for more information. Don't miss my interview with Mirela Sula, the CEO and founder of the Global Woman Magazine and Global Woman Club. Mirela has worked in media and education for the last 20 years and has speaking experience from all around the world. Her background is in psychology, counseling, journalism, teaching, and coaching. Mirela is also the organizer of the Global Woman Summit and the Global Woman Awards. Next week is going to be amazing. We're going to have a live broadcast at Garner Holt Productions with Garner Holt, the founder and president of Garner Holt Productions. Garner started Garner Holt Productions at age 16 in his parents' garage while still in high school. Garner Holt Productions is now the world's largest designer and builder of animatronics and other elements for theme parks, attractions, museums, and more, all from its 120,000 square foot Redlands, California headquarters. We will see you all next week. You don't want to miss it.